Good evening. I want to call to order our September 5th Baldwin County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. At this time, if you'll stand with me, we'll have a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Father, we're thankful to you for this day. We're thankful to you for this county that we live in. It's a great place to live. We're thankful for the many that make it that way, for our elected officials who work to make it that way, for all of the staff that's here tonight that has made this meeting possible with their hard work, our first responders, so many, Father, we're just thankful for. We do live in a great place. Thank you, Father, for the opportunity we have to conduct this business tonight. Bless us with wisdom that we conduct ourselves in a way that we should. And we pray all this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this time I'll call the roll. Brandon Bias, Robert Davis, Jason Padgett, Michael Mullick, Greg Seibert.
Here.
Jamie Stradiger.
Here.
Glenn Seal. Diane Burnett.
Here.
Michael Fletcher.
Here.
George Waters.
Here.
And Reed Key.
Here.
And we have a quorum, barely. But we have enough. That's good. So you've each received a copy of the minutes of the last work session and regular meeting on August the 1st. Unless anybody has any corrections to that, I'll entertain a motion that both of those be approved.
So moved.
Mr. Cyrus made a motion those be approved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Stradiger, second the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Mr. Dixon, you would like to have your time, please?
Sir, good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. We'll quickly go through our public hearing guidelines. We have several public hearings on the agenda for you all tonight. So for those in the audience, public comments should only be made during the public hearing portion of the meeting. When you come up to the podium, please state your name and address into the microphone for the record. Comments should be directed to the chairman of the Planning Commission, and he can address them or convey them to the appropriate person. Comments should be focused on the application that is being presented at that time, and comments from individuals should be limited to 3 minutes. And if you're speaking on behalf of a group, you can extend that to 5 minutes. So there's a couple of rezonings tonight. You'll see this in your staff reports, just a reminder of the criteria that the zoning ordinance says we have to review rezoning requests by. Number one, is it compatible with the development pattern? Number two, is it a change in conditions from since originally zoned? Number three, does it conform to the master plan? Number four, does it conflict with public improvements? Number five, is there any adverse traffic effects to traffic? And I always like to clarify in this piece, that means the overall transportation network. There's always situations where you have to have localized traffic improvements, but this is more on the rezoning stage, more about what's going on in the transportation network in that area. Number six, is it consistent with the development pattern? Number seven, is it a logical expansion of an adjacent zoning? Number eight, is it the timing appropriate given development trends? Number nine, does there any impacts to environmental or historic areas? And number 10, are there any adverse impacts to health, safety, and wellness of the community? Then there's number 11 is a catch-all for any kind of special conditions that may be going on with that application. When we get to the subdivisions that are on the agenda, just a reminder that the state law is very explicit of how this body has to deal with subdivisions. So if these subdivisions during the staff review, we've determined that it does meet all of the regulations that are in place at the time, that the body is required to approve it as it meets all the regulations. So it's a little bit different than the zoning. It's a lot more of a technical review, and a lot less subjective like a zoning review is. So with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, with that, I will just say, if you will mute your phones, please, for that. And as Jay said, I'll also remind you, please sign up if you wish to speak. You need to do that up front. It will show up on my notepad here, so when we get to the particular item on the agenda, and it'll tell me who has signed up for that particular item, and I will call on you to come to the podium here and speak. And just know that I will open a public hearing, let everybody that has signed up to speak, including the applicant, of course. And once everybody's had a chance to speak, I will close the public hearing. When I close the public hearing, no one from the public will be able to speak again on that item. So you want to be sure and come up. You'll get your time to speak, and you'll hear the buzzer go off at the allotted time. So with that, we will now go to our first item, which is not a public hearing. It's this is case number PER 24-39 for SPP 22-07 Sherwood Grove. This is a one-year extension for a preliminary plat. Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, so this is a 166-lot subdivision, 50 acres. And just as a reminder, the background, this is one that was originally denied, but then was overturned, and so there was some delay in getting started. For that reason, this is the layout. It's on Sherwood Highland Grove Road, very close to South Bend. And they received a subdivision permit in November of 2022. Construction plans were submitted in April of this year, and clearing has started. Location. And so we are recommending approval, and then the general conditions are those that apply to all permit extensions. This is for a one-year extension, and so they would be able to do one more one-year extension if needed. And again, these are just the typical conditions. Any questions?
Okay, any questions for staff? Ms. Burnett?
Do you know how much time was delayed? Do you have any, was it 6
Like
months?
after the original approval? I want to say it was
Well,
about
but go ahead, I'm
3
sorry.
months maybe. There was some kind of a legal thing at the very beginning. It was 3 or 4 months.
What caused that delay?
The planning commission had denied it, and then they challenged it, and that was overturned.
Okay,
So I think they actually brought a circuit court lawsuit.
Correct.
With regards to our denial of their subdivision application. So then it went up to Baldwin County Circuit Court, where then it was resolved there.
so
In
then,
order that the plat, I think, be granted. Or
Correct.
be approved.
all right, then my next question is, now that originally there was not zoning in this area, and now there is, so my thought is to not approve this extension, but since it's gone through litigation, is that even something that we can entertain?
Well, I mean, I would think that basically the court said that they had a proper subdivision application that we should have granted.
I
And
see.
the court overturned us and granted it. And I can't remember if we did a procedural thing to grant it after the court case,
I think we did.
because there was a court order.
Right, yeah, we did that
were wrong.
administratively. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't come back.
And so, they had, according to the Baldwin County Circuit Court, but for our erroneous ruling on their subdivision application, they would have already been down the road, and we wouldn't be here probably.
So, Ms. Burnett, once the court ruled that it was an approved subdivision, that we had erroneous action in this board, that automatically made it a permitted, which is a grandfathered status. So when zoning, when it was permitted, it superseded zoning.
So even,
Across the board.
okay,
Yeah.
so there's no benefit
No.
to the community?
We can't go back. No, it was a properly permitted legally permitted development prior to zoning. That's
Okay.
where it ends. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for staff? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the Sherwood Grove one-year extension.
All right, Mr. Cybers made a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Maulick has seconded the motion. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right, at this time we will open the public hearing now for case number PID 23-01. This is E-Covery property. Does anybody need to declare any prior communication on this item? Ms. Boykin?
All right. This is a request to modify an approved site plan for less parking. The subject property is located in Planning District 12. It is zoned M2 General Industrial. The subject property is located on the east side of Railroad Avenue and south of Black Divine Road. And the applicant is asking to modify the existing site plan approval to have less parking than what was originally approved in September of '23. Here's where the property is located. Here's the zoning map and the site map. This was the planned industrial development site plan that was approved in September of '23. This was the approved parking plan. The zoning ordinance required 676 parking spaces, but at the last, in September, it was approved for 416 on site. The applicant came back asking for less parking. Now they are asking for 94 spaces. And as you see on the slide, the applicant stated that they are asking to amend their PID from 416 parking spaces to 94. E-Covery currently has 74 available parking spaces on site, and during our peak hours, Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30, we use roughly 68% of our parking spaces. The night shift, Monday through Friday, currently use 27% of the available spaces, and on weekends, that drops to 22% for day shift and down to 9% for night shift. By increasing to 94 parking spaces, this will ensure that half our parking spaces will be available during peak hours of operation, which will be more than enough spaces to handle their needs. So therefore, staff has recommended approval from going from 416 parking spaces to 94.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay. I'll call those that have signed up. Melissa Hadley? Okay. Melissa represents the applicant, and also I had Nathan Norris.
I was just here for any questions.
Okay. And then I have, in opposition, John Neat. Oh, well, okay, you just took it off. All right, thank you. All right, that's all I had signed up then. So does anybody have any questions, comments? All right, I won't belabor it. I'll entertain a motion. I'll close the public hearing first. I don't know that I did that, but close the public hearing now, we'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the site plan as presented with the conditions of the Planning Commission. Planning Department.
All right, planning, Ms. Burnett has made the motion to approve. Subject staff comments? Have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Key has seconded the motion. Any comments, questions on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That item is approved. Okay, our next item is the Chadwell property. Z24-33. We'll open the public hearing for this item. Does anybody need to declare prior communication on this? Okay.
All right, this is case Z24-33, the Chadwell property. This is located north of US Highway 98 and east of Alberta, approximately 20 acres, and its current use is vacant. The applicant would like to rezone from RA, Rural Agriculture, to RR, Rural District, to construct a wholesale warehouse distribution center for Panama Jack. Here's the approximate location of the subject property in the county map. And here's the locator map and the site map. To the north, east, and west is RA, Rural Agricultural District, with residential land uses. And to the south is M1, Light Industrial District, with industrial land use. Here are some photos of the subject property and adjoining properties. And staff is recommending approval for this request. Here are the 10 factors for consideration in rezonings, and this request is supported by 9 of the factors. As for the staff analysis and findings, the uses adjacent to the subject property are residential and light industrial. Staff feels the requested change is compatible with development patterns of the surrounding areas. This is the future land use map. The related zoning districts are going to be RSF1 and RSF2, so it actually supports more moderate development potential. And here are the rest of the factors which were met. Just to go through these quickly, if a commercial use is proposed, a commercial turnout permit will be required. And the contemplated use, which is a warehouse distribution center, is considered a light industrial use, which is allowed in rural zoning with conditional commission site plan approval. So if they want to do that, if the rezoning is approved, they will be coming back for a commission site plan. And staff does not anticipate any adverse impacts on any of the other factors. Here are the agency comments and the current zoning requirements for RA. And then the zoning requirements for rural district, the proposed zoning, with the conditional uses highlighted on the left under 3.1.4. And here's the zoning use table showing that warehouse and storage facilities are allowed in RR with a conditional use. And again, the rezoning request is from RA to RR, and we are recommending approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay, I have 3 signed up. Miles, I have 2 Miles Bishop, is that right? 2 of you? Just one? Man, I don't know now. Staff's going to have to help me out on this. All right, Miles, you want to come on up and speak or not?
I'm just here for any questions.
Okay. And then I have Mr. Neat, is this the right project?
It is.
You need to come up to the podium to speak.
That's okay.
Okay. All right, that's all I had signed up. I will close the public hearing. So any comments or questions before the motion?
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval.
Okay, Mr. Mullick has made the motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Who was that? Mr. Waters? Mr. Waters has seconded the motion. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll now open the public hearing for case number Z24-34, the Winfro property. Does anybody need to declare prior communication on this item? Okay, Ms. McKenzie?
All right, so this is ZVA 2434, the Renfro property, and they are requesting to rezone from B1, Professional Business District, to B2, the Neighborhood Business District. This is in Planning District 37, and it's along State Highway 181, north of County Road 48 and south of Gayford Road exit. There's currently a commercial structure on the property, but it's unoccupied at this moment. Here's the location in the Planning District. Here are the locator and site maps. As you can see, the surrounding properties are used for agricultural and commercial uses. And you can see there's many commercial uses along that portion of State Highway 181. Here are some images of the property and the surrounding properties. And unless information to the contrary is revealed at the public hearing, staff is recommending that this be approved. When it comes to the factors, this met most of the factors except for number 2. So the uses, like I stated, adjacent to the subject property are agricultural and commercial. And the parcel to the west is agricultural, but in the city of Fairhope. And I put the adjacent properties and further out too. As you can see, a lot of those are zoned for commercial use along that portion. The only factor it didn't meet was the changing conditions. This is a newer district, so there have not been many changes in zoning around this area. Oops. This property is located within a village center node, which related zoning districts include B2, so that helps with the factors. They will likely have to get turnout access from ALDOT due to accessing State Highway 181, and then if they do a subdivision, they would have to comply with those, but no other agency comments were received. There's the rest of those. Here are the current zoning requirements for B1, and then here's the B2, and I've highlighted where their proposed use of an antique store is allowed in B2. And there's the zoning use table showing it too. And like I stated before, they are requesting to rezone from B1 to B2, and staff feels like this should be recommended for approval.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Okay. I only have one sign up, Christine Cruz. Did you want to speak? Okay. That's all I had signed up, so I'll close the public hearing. Y'all sure are making this easy tonight so far. I'll probably just cursed it. All right. I'll entertain a motion if nobody has any questions.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval.
Mr. Mullet's made a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Mr. Cyber seconded the motion. Any questions on the motion?
Trying to get an Uber driver?
All approved, say
Sorry. Apologize.
all approved.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We go to our next item, which is case number PUD 24-08 and SV 24-14. This is London's Landing. Does anybody need to declare prior communication on this item?
Bless you.
Ms. Waters?
All right, Commissioners, this is the site plan request for London's Landing. The subject property is located west of Splash Road in the Bonsecure area. The site plan approval is for a 11-unit site plan development. The total acreage equals about 13 acres, and traffic study was not required. The property owner has proposed a land condominiums where each unit can be sold, but the whole parcel in itself and its common areas will remain under unified control by the POA and HOA. Here is your planning district map. Here is your aerial map of the location. An overall site plan and enlarged and cropped image. Here's your capacity report letters for sewer and water from City of Gulf Shores Utilities. Here are your letters for the ISO fire flow requirements. The applicant has also requested a waiver to be exempt from the requirements of having to install curb and gutter, and also the pavement width reduction from 20 feet to 18 feet. As for the variance request, the applicant is requesting a variance to be exempt from having to build the current road to meet the current requirements for road elevation. I will just read through these quickly. The granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public safety, health, and welfare to other properties. The applicant's response was, since the elevation of the existing roads on Plash Island are around 5 feet, this variance would not be detrimental to the public safety, health, and welfare, or injurious to other property. This would be in harmony with all property in existing county right-of-way on Plash Island. The conditions upon which the request for a variance based on the unique to the property for which the variance is sought. And the applicant's response was the same. Because of the particular physical surroundings, shape, topographical conditions, the specific property involved, a particular hardship to the owner would result as distinguished from a mere inconvenience. And the applicant's response was, the existing topographical conditions of Plash Island result in a hardship due to the fact of the existing Plash Road elevation. And the variance would not in any manner vary from the provisions of other adopted policy and regulations of the Baldwin County Commission. And the applicant's response was that this variance would not in any way vary from the provisions of other adopted policies, and that they are asking for a variance for the elevation of the driveway to be constructed below the allowable elevation of the base flood due to the elevations of the existing Plash Road. Staff has recommended approval of the subdivision variance case SV 2414 and PUD 24-8 with the following specific conditions. The first condition is provide an updated drainage plan that addresses the drainage concerns listed in the reviewer's checklist. Since no on-site detention is proposed, the applicant has to give us an updated report addressing how they plan to capture the storm water before it's released into the bay. The second condition is to update the land condo draft. Some language there referenced City of Gulf Shores. So they're going to correct that, and then they add the name condominium to the title of the project. Again, staff's recommending approval, and I'll just make a comment that when you vote, if you can vote separately and vote on a variance first, because if the variance is denied, the site plan will automatically be denied as well. All right, and that's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Waters, the second item under the site history, the request for the waiver, that's just handled under the PUD, correct?
Yes, and you would have to agree on, allow the waiver, approve the waiver request as well.
Yep. All right, any other questions for staff?
Ms. Waters, how big are these lots supposed to be? And are these going to be homes or?
So yes, these are going to be single-family homes, and there are no lots per se. The units can be sold separately, but there is not a lot lines around the structures.
How are they handling parking? Because if they're going to have 18-foot wide streets, I'm thinking if anybody's parking on the street, how's a fire truck going to get down the road?
I'm going to zoom in here. They are providing parking. Since these houses will be elevated, their parking will be underneath their homes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So he raises a good question, Bobby, is they're providing only 2 parking spaces under their unit?
Yes.
No guest parking anywhere, or am I missing it?
That's right. When they updated the site plan, they added a community pool area here, but we are not aware of any parking to go along with this community pool area.
So we're not creating lots here, are these rental units, I'm assuming?
They can be purchased as, traditional single-family homes where whoever owns it can live in it. It's just that the form of ownership is being done through a typical land condo where you own your unit, but you don't per se own a lot. You just own the dirt underneath that unit. All other areas will be maintained and owned by the HOA and POA once it's built and transferred to them.
I guess these won't be a public road. I mean, how do they do trash here? I guess there's no trash trucks coming into this.
That's correct. This is not going to be accepted by the Baldwin County Highway Department. There is no public right-of-way. It will be privately maintained.
How are they handling trash?
Dumpsters. But the applicant is here, and he can say if they will for sure stay with the dumpsters or if they will go with the rolling carts.
Where are dumpsters or any trash collection locations on this map?
I don't actually have a dumpster on here, but the applicant can probably tell you how they're going to handle it.
We'll have the applicant come up in a minute. Michael, we'll ask him. Any other questions for staff? Okay, I have Johnny Moore. Whichever. I got Austin signed up too, so Austin, you want to speak?
Good afternoon. My name is Austin Lutz. I'm with Engineering Design Group. I'm representing Mr. Moore for his property. To answer your question about the dumpsters, we are planning to do rollout dumpsters, or trash cans, not dumpsters, on the site. So,
Where would they pick them up from?
Plash Road.
So I'll go back to the parking. You got 2 spots underneath each one. Let's assume no one ever has any guests, that's fine. But the moment that somebody parks on the street, a fire truck can't get down the road, garbage truck can't get down the road, an emergency vehicle can't get down the road. So I'm struggling with an 18-foot wide road, on an area that has the potential to be fairly frequented, especially during the high season.
All right. So we show 2 parking spots underneath each of the buildings. 2 parking spots per house is the minimum requirements by subdivision regulations. Technically, the house pads are large enough to where we could get more than 2 parking spots underneath them. We just show 2 as a display to meet that requirement.
Okay, Ms. Burnett?
So to clarify, how many parking spots can you get under each unit?
I guess you could technically fit 4 parking spots underneath. These buildings, they're on pylons, so they're built up so you could park underneath them. So you could
Sometimes there's obstructions underneath, so.
Potentially. So, maybe there's 3. There's no building plans right now that I could say, 100% sure, I guess, that we're going to get that. But it's likely that there's going to be more than 2 parking spots available for each house. But there will be at least a minimum of 2 for each one.
Need a note on the plot.
So that raises another question, Jay. If we don't require anything on the units, how do we know how many bedrooms they're putting in these units? What if there's a 4-bedroom units they're going to build?
So, yeah, when it's in an unzoned area that's just going by the subdivision regulations, it's kind of tricky because we can't really regulate the number of bedrooms in there. But the subdivision regulations are pretty clear about a minimum of 2. This is a PUD, so if the commission would would like to request there be more, provided under the buildings, that could be a request by in this case, by the commission. That's up to you guys to decide that. But, it is likely, I mean, this is very similar to a lot of the coastal homes that are elevated where you can have tandem parking under there that could have 4, sometimes more parking under it, depending on the housing configuration. So I think it could be something that the commission could consider if there was a higher number of spaces that you want to see, that could be a condition of the approval.
Can I ask
ma'am.
a
Go
question?
ahead.
Jay, can they amend the graphic that shows parking to show 4?
Yes, it could be, what would happen if that was a part of the condition?
Yes.
In your motion?
But we
We
can
would have
ask
them
that.
amend that before they went forward to record their PUD and everything, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I do on the trash. I guess we're looking at what, 11 units, and I'm assuming, these may not be little units, but I mean, do they have 1 trash can or 2 trash cans per unit? And I mean, I think we need to have some kind of, the name of the road, Glass Road or whatever, Flash Road, we need to have some kind of garbage containment system up where the county's going to pick up this trash. And I don't, on these, I guess on the permanency of this, I mean, I guess I have questions on some of the curb and gutter that, we know trash and different things, some of that waiver is waiver of that curb and gutter system is another issue right here on the bay.
I'll address the curb and gutter. So the reason why we're asking for that waiver is because Plash Road that ties to the private driveway, there's not curb and gutter on any part of the island right now. So, we're asking to blend in with what's existing there now, as well as that leads into the road width too, and the reason why we're asking for that waiver on that. As far as the trash cans go, we can denote a plan or a note on the plan, showing here's where the designated trash pickup location will be. Our ideas was it was going to be on Plash Road in front of the development.
Yeah, so on that, you probably need to coordinate with the waste pickup company to make sure that they will either require the homeowners to either take it all the way down to Plash Road, or if they are willing to come down London's Lane and pick up from inside the development per se.
Because it looks like right now, London's Lane's going to come down and then it turns to go to those units. That's a dead end.
Yes.
So
There is a little,
notwithstanding the skill of the garbage truck drivers, but are they going to pull down there and then back all the way back out?
Yeah, and I will say, there's that little dead end in the end, and what you see on the west side of the wall is just a buffer, a wetland buffer.
Right.
That's basically open space.
It seems to me it would make more sense if London Lane was maybe for county or built to county specs, and if there's trash coming from 11 units, that they may collect that trash down there, I'm gonna say at the end of London's Lane, and then go back, they make their turnaround and go back out. But, I mean, that's a long way to carry your garbage, I don't know how far that is, but all the way up London Lane to some collection site up at the top for each of these units seems
So, Mr. Muller, that London's Lane is not something that the county would want to take over.
That's
right.
That's
So,
what may be,
but
that may be what's worthy of having built to a county spec, that a garbage truck or emergency vehicle can get down in there, gather their trash from these 11, because most of what surrounds, it looks like more single family versus a cluster of 11.
I'll just say this, Mr. Mullick, that even though they are asking the variance, if that request was not on the table, this is not the typical type of development that the county wants to take over for maintenance either, because there's no connection. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to connect.
The collection, or it's gathering the trash from these 11 houses that you're going to have them traverse, however far up that driveway to leave their trash. I mean, yeah, we're going to want to see some kind of collection site at the end for what's going to come out of this development.
So one thing that the applicant could work with the garbage company to do is that the cul-de-sac you see that in the west side of London's Lane there, that's all designed for fire access. So if a fire truck can access that, a garbage truck can access it. So it's being built to standards to handle the fire truck and garbage trucks. So that collection site could be at that cul-de-sac. It doesn't have to be out of the road. And that would be a preferable situation.
I think that makes more sense.
But the county doesn't have to take that road over to make that happen.
Understood.
Right.
Then, I mean, if we had some collection site there versus at the top that the county would be willing to drive their truck down Loudon's Lane to gather this trash, I think it would maybe be better than maybe what might occur toward the end. Just a thought.
And you can add that as a condition in your recommendation.
Okay, any other questions for staff or for?
I got one more. What's the thought process? Why do you want an 18-foot road instead of a 24?
20, I believe, is minimum per subdivision regulations, and the reason why we chose 18 is, there's two reasons actually. The first reason is because Plash Road, the county road out in front of the site, it is 18 foot wide at its maximum width. The second reason is the owner was granted a permit from the Corps of Engineers back years ago, and so that strip of that private driveway that's there now, it's already permitted, and he only has 30-foot strip. Bulkheads are already built, and so we're bringing utilities down that strip, and so we're trying to minimize that impact because we're only granted so much space. We can't make it any wider. So that's the two reasons why we're asking for that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank y'all.
Mr. Morris, one more time, did you want to speak? Yeah. Okay, come on up and give us your name.
I'm Craig Johnson, also with EDG. A couple of things we can do on the homeowner association. The house plans, they can tie up where they can mandatory make them park 4 under the house, nothing outside of the house. Plash Road that's through there now, it's anywhere from 13 feet if you're coming in before the curve at Sailboat Bay. It's 13 foot wide there. It gets up to 16, it jumps to 18 in 1 or 2 small places, and then it's usually about 16 foot wide all the way through there. That road now, London's Lane, it's constructed. I mean, it's gravel now. He's going to hard surface it, but it's constructed now, and it's to the compaction rate that'll hold a fire truck now. Is there something mandatory that we need to put in there where the county has to get the refuse, or is it something that he can do privately, like through Republic Services? Because that's who we've been talking to about doing the garbage down here.
Since this is a condominium and not a typical subdivision, it would be treated almost like a commercial property where they could choose to contract with a private trash collection agency so they had that choice. So that would be allowable.
And because the county didn't really want to take it on, I think that would be the best route for everybody to take. That cul-de-sac is emergency turnaround access that satisfies the fire truck and the fire code.
I would say you just need to get that worked out prior to, so that we know whether or not it would impact some layout in some way.
We can
whatever service that is.
Yeah, we can do that. And if there's any need, if there's a stipulation that you need to put in there about all parking, at least 4 parking under the house minimum, whatever you want to put, that's what needs to happen. But right now, because of the floodplain that's down there, they're going to have to build up. I don't think there's going to be any ground floor enclosures down there on that piece from what we've seen. So the pier's built, the bulkheads are in, everything's done. It's open space from the edge of that driveway back to where the bulkhead is, which is 30 feet. So it's not like it's, a compacted right up against that nothing's going to be there. So if there's anything else that we could do to get that. I think they had what is it, 2017, Jay? They had a high-rise here permitted?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yes.
There was a much
2017?
more dense
Wasn't it probably-
2017.
Yeah, 2017, they had a tower on this site. So this is a great reduction in what they had. He had, I want to say he had 56 boat slips already permitted through the Corps. 124, excuse me. It was a double that. So it's 124 boat slips. So this has come way down on the impact. And on the 18-foot, like we said, we're just trying to match what's there and not try to go overboard. So we appreciate y'all's consideration.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, any other questions? I'm going to close the public hearing. Ms. Waters, you have anything to add? We'll start with the get my thoughts here. I'm going to start with the variance request.
Yes.
We'll deal with it first. Did you have anything else, though?
I just wanted to make sure that whatever motion, if you are voting to approve this, were you going to include the parking and the trash in the conditions, the 4 parking spaces, and so I can add it to my notice?
Okay.
If that's if that's what you'd like to do. Okay. Whoever makes that motion.
Okay, let's do this. Let's go ahead and deal with the variance request, and let's get it off the table so that we know whether or not we're dealing with that part of it. So I close the public hearing, so I'll entertain a motion as it relates to case number SV 24-14.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we approve SV 24-14, a variance for London's Landing.
Okay, Mr. Sykes made a motion that we approve. Do I have a second?
A second.
All right, Ms. Burnett, I got Diane Burnett, second the motion. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the variance is approved. Okay, so now on the PUD, so if you can help Ms. Waters out, if you include on your motion, we need to include, number one, the approval of the waiver request, and then any additional items like the 4 spaces. You need to include that in your motion, and regarding the trash pickup.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the application, including the variance. Is that right?
The variance is already done, so.
The waiver.
Yes.
Oh, the waiver.
Yes.
Sorry, the waiver. And then to amend the illustration on the plat that's typical unit plan to include 4 spaces.
Okay.
And then coordinate with the planning department about waste pickup?
Yeah.
That's fine. I'll know what you mean by that.
Okay.
Okay, is that
And-
your motion?
With
Yes.
the other specific conditions listed as well?
I'm sorry. Oh, yes.
Yes,
And then the other conditions as listed by staff.
yes. Thank
All
you.
right, do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Ms. Strasser, second that motion. Is everybody clear on the motion? I'll read it back, or I'll come back with okay, everybody looks good on it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? PUD is approved. Okay. This time we'll open the public hearing for case number PUD 24-09, By the Bay 2. Does anybody need to declare prior communication on this item? Ms. Waters, this yours too?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Commissioners, this is case number PUD 24-9, By the Bay 2. The property owner is CMM Investment Groups, Mr. Frank Murphy, and the engineer of record is Chris Lieb with Lieb Engineering. This subject property is located south of US Highway 98 and west of Keller Road. This is in unzoned district, Planning District 17. The total acreage of this development is approximately 6 acres. A traffic study was not required. The drainage narrative was prepared and accepted by the permit engineer, and a wetlands delineation was provided and reviewed and accepted by the natural resources planner. Here is your district map and your aerial. Here is your proposed site plan and an enlarged copy of it. Here are your capacity reports and waiver request for the curb and gutter. And staff's recommending approval with the following specific conditions: that the applicant will provide staff the overall legal description for the RV park and provide the turnout permit approval from AlDOT for the access onto Highway 98. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Mr. Chris Lee, you're the only one signed up.
Good evening. I'll be here to answer any questions that you may have.
Chris, is there any way we could entertain the idea of putting the dumpster towards the front instead of all the way at the back?
Yes,
So that the garbage truck doesn't have to go all the way through the neighborhood?
we can do that.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Chris is probably thinking if he'd put it all the way in the front, we'd be asking to move it all the way to the back.
I got to give you something, you know.
I know how you think, buddy. Any other questions for Mr. Lee? Okay.
All right, thank you.
I guess that's it. And that's all I had signed up to speak, so I'll close the public hearing. Ms. Waters, do you have anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve PUD 24-09, subject to staff conditions.
Okay, Mr. Sipes made a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Key seconded the motion.
Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Seibert, did you want to include moving the?
Oh, yeah, the dumpster.
Dumpster in your motion?
I'll amend my motion to include changing the location of the dumpster from the rear of the property to the front.
You're good with that?
I'll second his amended motion.
Good. All right. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We have two left, so unless somebody's going to say otherwise, I'm going to keep going. Is that okay? All right, we'll open a public hearing now for case number SPP 24-13, Avery Cove subdivision. Does anybody need to declare prior communication on this item?
All right, Commissioners,
Waters, go
this
ahead.
is case SPP 2413, Avery Cove subdivision. The owner and developer is CMI LLC. The surveyor of record is, the engineer of record is Michael Thomas with Blue Water Design. The subject property is located south of County Road 48 and west of the Baldwin County Beach Express, located in Planning District 18, currently unzoned. The approximately total area of the subdivision is of about 40 acres and includes about 121 lots. The traffic study that was prepared and stamped by Anthony Cothram with Skipper Consultant, the original report will have to be revised to meet staff's requirements. The drainage study that was prepared by the engineer was reviewed and approved by the permit engineer. The wetland report that was submitted to staff did not have any wetlands on site, and it was all uplands. Fire protection was provided and signed by the City of Robertsdale Volunteer Fire Department. Here is your aerial map, imagery, copy of your proposed plat, and a enlarged copy of your plat. The various utility letters with the utility reports and ISO information. The traffic study, as I mentioned earlier, has recommended improvements, but in the study, it did not study one of the intersections along Adams and County Road 48 and also Highway 59. So we are requesting that the applicant revise the traffic study. We are recommending approval with the following conditions. The revised traffic study being one, show the roadway and pavement width of County Road 48, and remove the note that states that the new streets will be privately maintained unless that's the intent. If so, then the applicant will have to submit a request for a private road that will have to be presented and approved by the Baldwin County Commission. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for staff? Okay. I'll start with Mr. Thomas.
I'm Mike Thomas. I'm the engineer of record representing CMI LLC. I'm here to answer any questions and then also to let you know that the traffic counts for the additional intersections have been collected, and we should have the revised report in like 2 weeks. And at that point, we'll submit it for staff review.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Thomas? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. I have 3 signed up in opposition. Victor Salick.
My name is Victor Salick, and I've got concerns about the water runoff of this property. It's supposed to have 121 units, and I live right behind this in the adjacent property, and most of the water from Robertsdale already comes down through there. And this property always, it's farmland right now, but it drains off of it too. So whenever you put this, 121 units in there, you got roofs, driveways, streets, it's going to amplify it. And I've been here lately since all this development is going on. I noticed the water, when it does rain, it does have more and more. So my concern is if it's going to flood us out down in that property.
Okay. I may bring the applicant back up, or the representative to come back up on that. Let me get through the other 2. Sorry, this thing times out on me. All right, Robin Campbell, Cook. All right, Brian Campbell.
Brian Campbell, I live at 20162 County Road 48. I think it's actually changing now since some stuff is changing on that road. But adjacent and totally surrounding this proposed property are 2 farms. There's Salick Farms and there's Campbell Farms. The property is totally surrounded. If you look at the map there, to the east, to the west, and to the south. And we, right now, I live just on, slightly an acre right there. but I'm the power attorney for my dad. He owns the remaining part, that 40 that is adjacent to the east of it. And he also owns another 40 that is on the expressway that's what we're concerned about, like Victor said, is the drainage. We already have a drainage ditch now, or runway, between our property, which is east of theirs, and on this property that's subject here. That ditch right there runs through there. It comes from across the road also, so it's running through there. I know we've had a drought lately, so you can't tell now, but when it does rain, it fills up. Now, saying that, they also, like Victor said, they have the properties that are on Adams Drive now. They're redoing that. And the looks of it now, they have pointed their large drain now that is pointing toward County Road 48. So that will also be coming into our drainage area. And this all drains behind our farms, and it backs up. When it does rain now, we have my cousin is to the east of me. We kind of share some farming stuff together a little bit, and I kind of help them and they help me. And when it does rain, where we had cattle, the whole pasture floods. And that's about 20 acres down there. And that's without any new additions. So with the new additions, everything else around us is row crop. So row crop is what everybody uses, that's everybody's living. So now if we extend that more and we get more drainage that's going to come into there, which we know it's going to come into there because it just keeps getting worse every year, it's going to move out of the pastures and it's going to move into the areas where the row crop actually are. So my dad also, like I said, has an area on the 40, which is that creek that runs, that bridge that's right there on the expressway. If it backs up, it's going to run into that field also, because all that drains into the same area. It's coming from also the ditch that runs through the Salix. So there's a ditch that runs through the Salix property. There's a ditch that runs between the Campbell property and this new property that's being proposed. And there's also a ditch that runs between my property and my cousin's property, who's just east of me. All that flows into the same creek in the back, and it floods there now. So with any additional things built with all that runoff, I don't care if there's retention ponds and stuff like that, it's gonna run off. It's already running off from just the little flash flood we had the little day with that rain the other day that came from where they're building right there on Adams. So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
All right, that's all I had signed up to speak. Just to address, you do want to speak? Okay.
Robin Campbell Cook, I'm the sister to Brian, and I myself, we're building on 20360 County Road 48, right beside my brother. That's on part of my dad's land that he owns there too. And I actually have a problem with the drainage, and I have a problem with the 121 houses sitting on 40 acres. That's a big problem. And that's all I got to say.
Okay, let me address a couple of those things. We get it about the 121 lots, but you got to remember this is unzoned property, and as Mr. Dixon pointed out at the beginning tonight, if they check the boxes, if they meet all the regulations, we have no choice. You just heard an example earlier where we did in fact turn one down that we, like you, didn't like, 40-acre property or more, but the judge overruled and said, no, we had to approve it because it met the regulations. I say that to say, to answer the question about drainage, they've already done some preliminary work. They will do now the final work on that. We'll give an approval tonight to let them move forward to doing actual design. They will have to convince the county staff that they meet the drainage requirements that are required by the regulations. Traffic and all those things have to be checked off. They will not get a permit to do a development until those things are taken care of. But we, as a planning commission, cannot stop them because we don't like it or because it's too much, because it's an unzoned area, and that's the trigger here. So I know those answers are probably not liked, and I get it. We go through this every month, but that's the problem with unzoned properties. We are stuck with a very defined guideline for subdivisions that we have to react to. All right, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing.
I have a question on, is the fire protection that's available or not of a concern to us at this point?
No.
Or will that come at the next stage?
No, he did get, the engineer, Greg Smith with City of Robertsdale, gave us the numbers for the 2 hydrants that are basically at each corner of the location. And when we combined both numbers, we resulted where the applicant didn't meet on one side but met on the other, so he increased the side setbacks from 10 feet to 11 feet, and that meets our requirements for the spacing between the houses for the ISO.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I have a question. I know that the new subdivision amendments haven't even been approved yet, but we heard earlier that the post office is asking for a cluster mailbox. Is that something they could include in the site plan?
Yeah, it's already kind of being administratively done.
Okay.
It's just not in the regulation, but the Postal Service requires that anyway, so that's going to be a requirement on their end, but we just don't have to address right now.
Okay, any other questions?
I'll just make a comment, and this is tough in an unzoned area, and I know that our hands are tied up here, but I look at this and, ask myself, are there any amenities in this subdivision or preliminary layout? And the short answer is no. And I mean, it's an unzoned area that when they meet the boxes, we don't have a choice but to vote yes, and I guess we'll come up and, make sure there's setbacks and parking, or it's a very crowded neighborhood with, I don't say no amenities, but I know our hands are tied, and, if there's anything that we can add to help make this a nicer neighborhood right here in the middle, or just off the side of Robertsdale, it's just food for thought for our engineers. That's it.
Well, that's why we've had changes to the subdivision regs coming up, so some of that will help with some of the comments that are being made, but that won't be approved till possibly October. All right. If no other questions, I'm going to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the Avery Cove subdivision subject to staff conditions.
Okay, Mr. Sybert's made a motion to approve it. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Mullica seconded the motion. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Last item. Case number SPP 24-14, Abbey Oaks subdivision. Anybody need to declare prior communication on this item? Ms. Mitchell.
This is an 81-lot subdivision, and it's on the south side of Dolead Road. And if that looks familiar, Darby Ridge was approved on the north side. This is unzoned. It's near Spanish Fort. Again, 81 lots, about 4,000 linear feet of road. North Baldwin will supply the water, and Baldwin County Sewer at the plant in Malbus will provide the sewer. I think I said earlier, water. North Baldwin is water. Traffic study did take into account Darby Ridge, so it accounted for both subdivisions when they were looking at the traffic counts. The drainage engineer was provided by Dwayne Smith, the engineer. The wetlands, there are quite a few wetlands, and they did actually get a core permit for filling wetlands to create the second entrance. So some of the details. Here's the the plat. So you can see there's an entrance here to the east and then an entrance to the north, and then Darby Ridge is directly across there. So you can see extensive wetlands, and I've got another slide where I'll detail that a little bit. So I know there are a lot of concerns for the citizens in this area about the road, and sight distance was a big issue with Darby Ridge. So the developer actually acquired property across the street. This has been cleared, and the blue is the existing road. The green is how the road will actually be moved. And again, that's to address some of these sight distance issues. I have the sight distance, let me move this clock out of the way. I've shown the sight distance that's on the site plan right there. The commercial turnout permit is going to be issued tomorrow. They've addressed all the concerns, so that permit is ready to go. There we go. So here's some of the letters. There were some concerns about fire flow. It is low, 973, although that has improved since the Darby Ridge subdivision. But because it's less than 1,000, they need to increase the side setbacks to 11 feet rather than the usual 10. So I mentioned the fire flow already. I've mentioned that they're working on the roads. And then below is the detail of the wetlands. So the fill permit is to fill this portion right here. And again, that's to allow a second access. So staff is recommending approval with conditions. The conditions are the increased setback to 11 feet per side. Right-of-way dedication improvements to Doley Road. This, again, is something that's in progress right now. They have an agreement with the Highway Department to add the right-of-way. And the developer will comply with all requirements for the wetland fill. But again, they have the permit now, so they will just follow the requirements of that permit. And the permit number is shown on the plat. So those are the conditions. If you have any questions or comments.
All right, any questions for staff?
I have a question.
Okay.
In the traffic study, did they look at Jimmy Faulkner Road?
They did. They considered that intersection. They looked at that intersection and then the two entrances. And it was done during a school day as well.
All right. Do you know the level of service? Do they identify the level of service at those intersections, at that intersection?
Yes, ma'am. So that's how they basically looked at the intersection for Jimmy Faulkner. And they looked at it for existing conditions and also for proposed conditions once this development and the other one is built.
So level of service.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it A, B, what is it?
I think the worst one was a D. I think most of them are Cs with the proposed development.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
C for most of the.
C?
Yeah, because they look at the two peak hours for morning and afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe one was C and one was D.
Mm-hmm. I know that meets the criteria, but that's not really perception in that area. And there's no shoulder at that specific intersection, nothing there. So is that something that we could address?
I know. We can talk with the applicant, but I'm not sure if they're willing to do it.
Pardon?
I can talk with the applicant if you would like.
And I don't know if, Mark, if you're familiar with that intersection.
It's just nothing there. And there's development north of this intersection. I don't know how many lots there are, but quite a few.
Mm-hmm. Now, while Mark is looking at that, have we introduced Josh? I can't remember if we've done that yet. So this is Josh, our new permit engineer.
How are y'all doing?
Mm-hmm.
Been here for about a month, so.
But his first planning commission meeting, so welcome.
I'm starting to settle in.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask Ms. Burnett to clarify her question?
What?
Ms. Burnett, are you talking about a maintenance issue at Jimmy Faulkner and Doley, or are you asking for an off-site improvement as a result of the development?
No, I'm just thinking driving and at 8 o'clock in the morning, actually 7:30 in the morning, and everybody's coming from north subdivisions. And the site, I don't think is a problem. It's just the speed at that area, and it's operating at a C, which perception in that area is thinking you should operate at an A or a B. You know how people drive. And so I was just thinking, there's no shoulder. If someone pulls out, there's no shoulder, there's nothing at that intersection. So I was going to see if we could get a shoulder improvement at that area.
I'm looking at the, so you're talking about a shoulder on Doleave, not on Faulkner, because on Jimmy Faulkner, they have a left turn lane and a decel lane going into Doleave.
Actually, I'm thinking a shoulder on Jimmy Faulkner south of Doleave, right at that intersection, to where, you know, it's two-lane traffic. There's just no room for movement. And it gets wider south of there, but right there, it's very narrow.
Because I'm looking at the Doleave Road connection to Jimmy Faulkner. There's a left turn lane on Jimmy Faulkner, and then there's a right turn lane on Jimmy Faulkner, both going into Doleave. I don't know what, it's a three-lane section.
Is there an area for an acceleration off of Doleave South? Is there something there? Because I drove that and I didn't see that.
No, there's not an acceleration lane. We can look at the intersection to see if the radius, it looks like a nice radius because it's got to accommodate school bus traffic. I'm just saying it's a three-lane section at that intersection. There are right turn lanes and left turn lanes. I don't know what additional lanes would be required, but we can.
I'm just looking at south, going south from that intersection. Because I think you've got it taken care of turning onto that street, well, the road, but coming south.
Okay, well, we'd be glad to look at it if it's some shoulder work or some shoulder maintenance on that we can look at that and see if it's warranted. I see what you're talking about. It's you're talking about the edge of pavement. It looks like people are driving right at the shoulder.
Yes.
Okay, we can take a look at that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for staff? I have quite a few people signed up. None? All right, Mr. Dwayne Smith, would you want to come up? Mr. Smith represents the applicant.
Dwayne Smith, Anchor Engineering. Basically, this is, like we're terming a sister subdivision to Darby Ridge. Its connections, the main entrance is directly across from Darby. I worked with staff on exactly where they wanted that. We've gone through all the wetlands. We've gone through all the drainage. We're currently doing the improvements on, as of the last couple of days, on Doleave Road itself. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Smith? Thank you, sir. All right, Scott Anderson. All the following are signed up in opposition.
Good evening, Scott Anderson. I live at 9051 Doleave. So on that picture, I'm at the top of the screen on the left there, that property going along Doleave. Yeah, I'm kind of pinched between Darby Ridge and this project. If I could ask Sean to go to page 3, slide 3. I just want to talk about the traffic study for a minute. Right there.
This one.
Yes. So the top right, it references in the last sentence a growth rate of 11% for 2 years that accounts for this project and Darby Ridge. I emailed the county twice telling them this is incorrect. It's a mistake. Absolutely false. I know traffic studies are boring, but if you actually read the traffic study like I did, it says the exact opposite. That 11% is an ALDOT average number for growth in Baldwin County. And it says in the traffic study that if you don't do either one of these projects, traffic's going to increase 11%. The reality is, Right now, there's somewhere between 100 and 200 trips per day that go along D'Olive Road and exit through the drop-off and pickup zone for the school. If you multiply 11% that you're being told today times 100, you get 11 cars. On the high end, if it's 200 cars, you get 22. So they're going to build 159 homes, and the county's telling you it's going to increase 11 to 22 cars per day. Obviously, that's a mistake. The reality is it's going to go up 1,681 trips per day. And that's the 81 homes for Abbey Oaks, which is, looking for my math here, about 853, I believe. And for Darby Ridge, those 78 homes, it's going to be 803. So you get 1,681 new trips where there's currently 200. And if you've been through the school zone during drop-off, D'Olive Road is a parking lot. It takes about 20 minutes to get through there with just the current 200 cars coming through. So you're going to go to a 940% increase, not 11% that's stated right there. So you got false information that you're going to approve in a few minutes. So you're going to go from 200 cars that takes 20 minutes to 1,800 cars when you add the new 1,600 trips with no improvement to D'Olive Road. And I spoke last time when I was here about how dangerous that road is. Very, very dangerous road, and it goes through the school drop-off zone. I hope you'll vote no on this, but I realize what you're obligated to do. One day, an accident attorney is going to listen to what I have to say when something bad happens on D'Olive Road, and he's going to say, the county approved it based on 11%, and it's really 940%. That's going to be big money the county's going to be paying out. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Anderson.
My name's Kristen Anderson. I live at 9239 D'Olive Road. I'm new to Alabama, so I'm trying to learn if it's D'Olive or D-Olive. As a wife of a terminally ill husband, the first issue that was brought up about the traffic is of great concern to me. I know that I have a CT scan for my husband tomorrow morning, and I have to go through that traffic zone by the school to get him to his appointment. That concerns me greatly. If there's an emergency, that concerns me greatly. If what Scott just brought up on the traffic report, which you guys are obligated to do whatever under the law you're obligated to do, is of great concern to me. I know that there's school traffic that has not been addressed prior to any new development that is of great concern. And then as to the development that's going on behind my property, which mine is the one that goes around the curve, it looks like Florida, there's been use of my property to access that before they developed their road. They've been leaving trash on my property, which is of great concern to me. And when I, as a new resident in that neighborhood, look and see side-by-sides driving across my property, see damaged brush, and see trash on my property, that's of great concern to me. I don't know what can be done about it. I'm still new and still learning about all of this. I was told when we bought the property that there was no development, so I'm coming to this lately. I just wanted to raise my concerns and my opposition to this.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Angela White.
I'm Angela White, and I own 86 acres kind of on the other side of Darby Ridge, but is affected by here too. And I wanted to correct a few things. He has not acquired the property. He is in contract to possibly purchase closing next year. He reached out to the owner to see if he could do something with the road just by that portion, and the owner said absolutely not. You have to pay for the whole thing. So I don't know their deal exactly, but now he's doing the road before he purchases it. You know, once that's done, my understanding is it's done once he says, you know, the land is to you. So don't know exactly what's going on with that. Also, there is not 3 lanes at the intersection at the school. Yes, 1 car can fit to turn where the other 2 lanes, but I don't call that a lane. I call that a 1 car can turn. So it's already congested up there. So I know you can't probably not approve, but you need to address that intersection. The developer on these two properties increasing by 160 homes, there needs to be requirement that he makes that a 3-lane there at Jimmy Faulkner, so that there is a turning lane, not a turning car. You know, it's already an issue now, and we have like 40 homes on the road. And so we're going from 40 to 200. So it says in the rules that you can require him to do other things. So I think, yes, there is no or what she called it, a side road, even at Jimmy Faulkner. There's none anywhere on our whole road. Like, a bunch of y'all were out there to let him do the road, which I still don't understand how, you know, we as a street don't have any access to say what we want done with the road, but he can say, hey, you know what, I want to widen the road so I can build these developments. I don't see how that can be appropriate when the rest of us on the road are inconvenienced. It's curvy, so when my husband was coming up, he almost hit one of y'all, whoever was there, pulling out. So I think there needs to be more a curb or side of the road, sidewalks put in, something, and addressed at the school. There needs to be some more requirements, since you can't not approve, but you can make it safer. He got the other one approved with one entrance, and guess what? In October, there's going to be a rule for 2 entrances. Everyone tells me it has nothing to do with this, it's other ones in the county. But at that time, under 5.98, it says, if the board deemed 2 entrances were safer, they can require it. So everyone keeps saying we can, it's not zoned, but it says right there in your rules now, not the ones October 1st, that you could have deemed that if you thought it was safe. So there's probably other stuff that you can deem to be safe before you approve this.
Thank you. Jim Rockwitz. I'm sorry, Jim, if I mispronounced your last name.
Well, thank the commission for listening to me. I'm currently a property owner directly east in CDR subdivision. I've just built a house there, and I've got a beautiful 5-year-old daughter back here, and we're a little concerned about the traffic flow as well. It's been an ongoing problem since we've seen a lot more traffic here lately with all the construction with Darby Ridge and now the new lots going next to me. I don't see how this is going to be safe for anybody, and I do see it being a potential hazard in the long run for a lot of the residents on there, because I do see these school buses going up and down the road every morning, going 45, 50 miles an hour, and I mean, I know they got to get those kids to school, but that's not safe either. There's like 6 or 7 turns on that road. It's really small road, not to really deal with much traffic. I own 6 acres right there next to it, and I at least plead to get a privacy fence or something, so I don't have to look at all those houses there, next, if you can at least do that to me. I know you guys have to approve it if they follow all the guidelines. I know it's not, there's no zoning there, but whatever we can do and try, and it seems like if we want to build houses in places where we have the roads to handle the traffic and not places where it's a dead-end road, where, that's where I bought that land, so I figured there wouldn't be too much more growth. But little did I know they were going to, build 2 subdivisions the year after I built my house. Here nor there, I do appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Harry Steele.
Good evening. So I think the elephant in the room, my name's Harry Steele. I'm an attorney in Daphne, Alabama, and I represent some of the property owners out here on Doleave Road. I think the problem, and you can see it as you look at this road snake down through here, what we did is we took the way that not our current judge, probate judge, but our previous judge, Doleave, used to get down to his hunting camp, and somebody just paved the road. There's no drainage. There was inadequate grading. There's hardly any drainage on this road. And yeah, I mean, it's a land grab. It's one of the last places on Jimmy Faulkner Drive that is unzoned. You'll be glad to know that there's a petition afoot to activate Planning District 7, so you guys don't have to stand up here and get arrows shot at you all the time, because I understand if the ball goes through the hoop, the ball goes through the hoop, if it meets the requirements. One of the things I would encourage you to do is to maybe talk with the Eastern Shore MPO, because if you're going to put 4 units per acre on every square inch of dirt going down this road, you need to boulevard the thing, okay? There ought to be major red lights at where these subdivisions are pouring out onto what anyone would consider at best is a farm to market road, if I had to put a technical specification on it. Of course, at the end of the road is a dead end with some kind of a hammerhead. I've been down there a couple times, but it's been about 30 years ago. To the actual end, the only thing I would say is that with all you've got these line of sight issues, and they're not just left and right. You got vertical curves that are causing problems, and I guess that right now that road's being moved some 8 feet to accommodate the entrance to Darby Ridge. Anyway, to Ms. Burdett's issue at Doleve and Jimmy Faulkner Drive, you've got like I said, a farm to market road with 40 people living down there, and you're about to stack. I think the gentleman left, but I haven't noodled the traffic study like he did, but sounds like a whole lot more cars. Anyway, hopefully this will be the last one that you guys have to cringe and approve. But if there were any way to put this off until a later date, we'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, that's all I had signed up to speak. I will close the public hearing at this time, and questions or comments?
I have a question for the developer.
Okay. Mr. Smith, can you come back up?
Sean, can you pull up the plat? Thank you. The north entrance aligns with the other development. The other entrance, which is to the east, is a secondary entrance. Is that right?
Well, they'll both be built as a fully accessed, and most likely, a lot of the traffic is probably going to come in that entrance.
That's what I'm thinking as
Yeah.
well. So I can't see it. Is that a boulevard type, or is it wide
No.
enough?
It's a standard county roadway. I think it's 22-foot.
Is that where the kiosk is? The postal kiosk?
I don't think so. I think,
Right here.
oh, actually, yes, the mail kiosk is right there, and it'll have parking associated
So
with it.
we can almost guarantee that's the primary entrance.
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, that's the closest to Jimmy Faulkner. I can imagine most traffic.
Is there any room there to pull off?
Yes.
To get to the kiosk? There is?
Yes.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
I have a question about the gentleman who brought up the traffic study being incorrect. Do we know if that's true or not, or?
Our requirements are that a licensed professional engineer who specializes in traffic studies and traffic management do our traffic studies, which what they complied with. So there's no reason to believe that their traffic study is incorrect. They are licensed professionals to do that work.
And we did send his message to Josh to look at, so.
I did review it. I didn't see any kind of inconsistency with it. And what they were saying about the 11%, that's just the growth rate and over 2 years. So it's 5.5, growth per year. So that's all that is. It's going to be a significant increase in traffic on that road. And I think that's what they're more worried about by the traffic study itself, I didn't see any inconsistencies with.
Any other questions? Comments?
One quick comment. I thought Darby Ridge was a bad idea, and I think this one's a bad idea too.
Okay.
I guess a question on some of the highway, you know, as this is between this subdivision and Jimmy Faulkner, man, that is a windy road. Is there anything else that we need to look at with highway department? And I mean, I guess I kind of think if I'm a delivery driver coming into this subdivision and I miss my turn into the subject site and I'm in a big truck, man, I'm in a bad place down here at a dead end and on a narrow road it just, some of this seems dangerous, and I know we're putting extra cars on a windy road, and I mean, that just, anything we as county can do to help that road, it sure, I imagine that our local residents would sure appreciate that.
And this may have been said, but does it, and I may have to get a citizen to say it, is, do we know if that school on Dolly, are they able to handle all their pickup without backing out on Dolly, or do they back out on Dolly?
I'll address that. I did last night.
Come on. I want to hear the answer to this, so I'll let you come back up and speak.
So my name is Todd Eisenberg. I live on 9311 Dolly Road. Yesterday at 3 o'clock, I turned left on the Dolly Road and didn't even make it to the top of the hill and stopped. 20 minutes later, 1 mile, I arrived at my house.
Okay.
There's no turnoff. There's nowhere for anybody to go, and there's a volunteer fire department right there. And that's even worse.
Okay. Thank you. I had a feeling that was the deal because almost every school in this county is that way.
Or the chairman, I mean, this may be one, if we're closed with a public hearing, is this one worthy of considering tabling to, you know, make one final, make sure that we are
If you make a motion to table, you're going to have to state what information, additional information, you're going to be looking for between now and the time you defer it to. You're going to have to be very specific in your motion, correct?
That's absolutely correct. And also understanding the impacts of the school circulation, but that is a school circulation problem and not really related to any other development. So that's.
I hear you, Jay.
I understand what it causes, but that's not really something that can be.
I guess what I'm thinking about, and I get it, but it's a real issue, and we're going to add all those lots, so that's that many more people turning that can't go down there because of backed up school traffic that we already know. If we know it exists, it's an issue to me that we're going to add to the problem because there is no other. If there were another way into the site, which most other schools have other roadways to get around. I mean, I lived here all my life, so I know where the schools are and I know where the back. I can circulate around and get. You can't do that here. This is a fairly unique situation in that regard. So,
it just seems like sooner or later the traffic's going to start backing up right on Jimmy Faulkner. And maybe it does now. Well.
Okay.
Yeah, this whole area is just ripe for development, and it's just going to get worse and worse, even if it does get zoned.
And I understand, but just to remind everyone, this is an unzoned area.
Hang on. Let Jay finish.
This is an unzoned area that we have a very specific set of subdivision regulations we have to review by. And understanding what the state law requires us to do, It's, sometimes it's not, it's difficult, and it's a difficult situation for y'all to go through, but it's pretty clear, and there's certain things that, that are maybe happening off-site that aren't necessarily related to this development that can't be hindering a private property's right to use their property. So just a reminder that that's what we're.
But Jay, why do we do traffic studies? We just did it on the last project that we require them to look at adjacent intersections. So they have, if this development pushes it over, they got to do improvements to those other intersections. If we know we have an issue, why would we approve this knowing it's going to make the situation worse without them making improvements to make it better?
If the traffic study did not, if the traffic engineer.
Traffic study's looking at one thing, but we're looking at an actual school district that sits there that we know people are sitting on a roadway and not getting off. That wasn't even considered in the traffic study.
The traffic study was in that, covered that area. So what it would have to have is the traffic study, or Mark would have to find something in the traffic study that says, hey, this is a condition that should be addressed in the traffic study. And so far, Mark, if I'm wrong, I have not heard that.
If you're looking at things to look at in a traffic study, the level of service C is not acceptable in a rural area. It's just not. So you're looking at a delay of an hour, is that right? An hour? Pardon? 20 minutes. 20 minutes, I'm sorry. Feels like an hour when you're in a car. But, I mean, it's just not, the level of service that you're looking at are for urban areas, not rural areas, or what's acceptable in a rural area. So I would ask that you maybe look at different levels of service as being appropriate for developments.
Okay.
I've got one quick question. Did I understand correctly that you said the traffic study was done by a professional traffic operations engineer?
Well, I'm not sure if it was a PTO, professional, licensed professional engineer.
Well, but I think you said, if they look back, I think you said professional traffic engineer. And this lady that did it is not a professional.
Engineer with experience in traffic.
Right.
They don't have to necessarily be a certified PTO.
But, okay, we don't have a PTOE. I mean, we don't have a PTOE that does the traffic surveys.
No, that's not required. It has to be a licensed engineer.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mullick, I cut you off a while ago, but if you,
I'd like to make a motion that we table this for 1 month to address some of the concerns with public and some of the safety concerns that were brought up specific to traffic on the road. What's the road? Doleave Road up to Jimmy Faulkner Drive, in particular, as we pass the Spanish Fort School.
okay.
So obviously, he wants to table it for public safety? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
All right, Mr. Mullick has made a motion to table this till when?
The next meeting, I think, would be appropriate.
So, clarification question. It's to specifically evaluate the intersection at Jimmy Faulkner and in front of the school in the traffic study.
I think it's evaluating Doleave Road up to Jimmy Faulkner Road, and in particular, as we pass the Spanish Fort Middle School.
Somehow the school district needs to take some ownership here and get these people off the road. I mean, they got to come up with, it looks like they got a huge parking lot there. You know, somehow the county has to work with this Spanish Fort Middle School to get those cars off the road. They got to come up with a different plan.
And my statement earlier was that that's something that's the highway staff and planning staff can work with the school separately. That's not, the school's operation can't be a consideration in other properties.
Understood.
They may be able to come.
It still needs to be done.
maybe some resolve can come in the next 30 days on solving some of these issues.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor, so let's deal with that first. I got a motion on the floor to table it till next meeting. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Waters, second the motion. Any questions on the motion? Any questions from staff on that?
So my only question would be is, they come back a month from now and, you know, for lack of a better way to put it, the same information is going to come before us. You know, because I don't know that 30 days is going to be enough time to, you know, do a quote unquote true traffic count from, you know, Doleave up to Jimmy Faulkner to, you know, with regard to the school traffic. You know, in order to get that data and have it digested and then have it produced. You know, the bottom line is if the school system does not want to invest in improvements to a county road, they're not going to. So, well, you and I know that. So I don't want to get into a situation where we're doing nothing but kicking the can down the road, and it gets, because I have to agree with Jay. Based on our subdivision regulations, they have fulfilled all of the regulations. They've checked all the boxes. Understand, I don't like it. You know, but we have to do things in life we don't like, but they've checked all the boxes.
That's correct, and just to also clarify that if there should be any regulatory changes between now and if it gets tabled and when it comes back on, they are irrelevant to this application because it's already before you. So there's nothing that's going, you know, that you would still be evaluating it just as you are today. So, you know, it's the will of the commission, but Mr. Siebert's right. They have gone through all of our regulations and met all of our regulations. Now, like I said, there's some other things that the county, we can do to work on some issues with the school system, but that's outside of what can be done through our subdivision regulation process.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. I'm going to ask for a vote on this. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, we need to do a roll call.
Mr. Mullick?
Approved.
Mr. Seibert?
Opposed?
Ms. Stratiger?
Yes.
Ms. Burnett?
No.
Mr. Fletcher?
No.
Mr. Waters?
Approve.
And Mr. Key?
No.
Motion fails.
So the motion fails. All right. So I need another motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve case number SP 2414, Abbey Oaks subdivision, subject to staff conditions.
Okay, Mr. Sykes made a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Burnett has seconded the motion. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
No.
I think I heard Mr. Mullick and Mr. Waters were no's.
Yep. Yes.
All right, motion carries. All right, that's the last of our cases. We have no new business. No public comment signed up. Staff reports.
Staff has nothing else. Just want to thank everyone on the commission that came early to hear the presentation on the proposed subdivision regulation amendments. Like I said, hopefully that will proceed forward. It's scheduled to be before the county commission at the October 1st meeting.
I have one I was so glad I got my packet. It came in today's mail. I do not know. I asked Jamie, and if any way they could come out any sooner. I mean, I was so glad had it in hand when I walked in here, but today's the day it arrived in my mailbox.
I think we sent them out 10 days early. We can look at that. Yeah, I'm not sure how many of you like the digital copy, but there's also a digital copy
I'll
emailed to
second
you.
Greg's, what he's mentioned the last couple times.
I've said
I mean,
enough.
I guess I was happy it was thin, we're getting out early, but not many cases, but, you know, I mean, I'll be the first to say that I'm not here to do digital, and I mean, when we sit down to study this, paper's what we need, and, I mean, I know the post office is changing my address, but, I mean, I was glad it made it, but today's when it arrived.
Yeah, we had a holiday mixed in too. We probably delayed a little bit as well, but yeah, we get them out as early as possible. It's a tight schedule. Staff works really hard to get all the staff reports done and complete, and in the staff in the packets. So it's a tight schedule as it is.
Legal counsel?
I had one.
Okay, anybody else?
I had one comment regarding the changes to the subdivision regulations. I'm sorry that I was unable to make it at 2 o'clock today for the detailed thing. I listened to the presentation from Roads and Bridges a couple of times. I'm disappointed that we were not given the opportunity for any kind of real input on the subdivision regs. I realize that, you know, you said you took our comments to heart and all of that, but to be handed what, you know, maybe text changes, maybe philosophic changes, I don't know, to be handed a completed document 1 month prior to it being approved without any ability to, you know, go through it at all, I think is disappointing since, you know, obviously after what's been said tonight on October 2nd, these are going to take effect, that, you know, we're going to be subject to, you know, helping to enforce, and it's just disappointing that we were not involved in the process.
Well, and like I explained during the work session, is that, yeah, there's been a lot of comments and things have been brought up by the board over the last couple of years, that things that need to be addressed and need to be included. And we've kept a kind of a running spreadsheet of what are all those concerns and questions are, and incorporated all of those in there. So, you know, just with the time period that we did have public involvement meetings with the public and developers and things in December before I was here. So there was a process that got to there that we had to incorporate it all into and get it in front of the commission in October. But you know, we followed our guidelines. Our guidelines say that, you know, it's an act of the county commission, and we had their input and comment as well, just like we had y'all's. So we're following the rules as they were written in the subdivision regulations of how to amend the regulations. But we did go through and include a lot of different things that have been brought up over this by this committee. And Mr. Seaver, I know you were I meant to tell you this earlier, that I'd be glad to send all y'all a PDF of the presentation, so anyone that wasn't here, you can go through and see kind of the condensed version of what the changes are being made.
But I guess that, you know, but the issue is I may get through this word for word, but the bottom line is, and you just said it, I can say whatever I want to, but you're going to fall back on, you know, we followed the, you know, the process for amending the subdivision regulations, and y'all are cut out. So this is going to go to the commission. I could go in here and find 25 mistakes or 25 other issues, and the bottom line is it's going to go to the commission on October 1st, and we were not given an opportunity to provide any kind of formal input. I mean, Ms. Stradiger was a part of a subcommittee prior to the turnover that was taking a part of this, and I guess that subcommittee disappeared into the ether, you know, when that, you know, when the turnover took place. And like I said, I'm just disappointed. I'm not saying that you didn't follow regulations or anything like that, but we're the ones that have to sit up here and enforce the regulations that we had no input on.
Okay. Any other comments? We're adjourned until the October 3rd meeting then.